With Valorant Tracker, it's easy to check out all of your game stats all in one place.
It also has a really cool and useful feature where you could actually see all of your teammates' ranks, KDs, stats, and everything like that.
Here are 10 abilities you are using horribly wrong in your ranked games. You probably already know that you're supposed to use Gekko's Dizzy ability for information as well as blinding enemies. However, we tend to notice a lot of Gekko players throwing Dizzy high and far in an attempt to try and get more information. What makes Gekko's ability so strong is the fact that you can pick them up and reuse them in just 10 seconds, meaning they'll be up and ready multiple times around easily. So throwing them at enemies into areas where you can't pick them up is a huge waste of their full potential. An easier way to use Dizzy is to throw her straight upwards in areas she can still see the enemies. A great example is right next to Switch on A site, where throwing her straight upwards will allow her to get information on A main, and the same concept applies here on B link on Pearl. Just throw Dizzy straight up and you can blind enemies that are pushing up into B main. You can just pick Dizzy right back up afterwards and you're good to go. One of the most important tasks for a Sova drone is to clear close corners to allow your team to avoid close range shotguns. But doing a weird 360 maneuver with a drone when clearing these 50-50 angles is extremely inefficient and could have your drone avoid it while you check the opposite corner, putting you and your teammates in danger. Don't worry though, there happens to be a way where you can check both corners at the same time without having to slow your drone down at all. When entering areas with a close corner, just look downwards with your drone and fly up to max range. It gives you a wider view to the left and right, allowing you to clear a corner without actually turning at all. Try it out for quick and easy corner checks when playing Sova to get more value out of your drone. The next ability is Killjoy's Turret, and this time it's more about wasting it rather than using it wrong. The turret is an incredibly useful ability, as it's totally free and can get information on anyone in its line of sight very easily. Far too often though, we see players holding more advanced angles than their turret can cover. By positioning yourself ahead of the turret, it means that you'll take contact and expose enemies' presence way before your turret ever can, adding to the level of danger and making the whole setup completely pointless. What you'll want to do is play in cover and peek off your turret's contact, or if you're intent on pushing and taking more space, recall your turret so that you have it ready sooner when you next need it. As a general rule of thumb, you should avoid playing it in front of your Sentinel's utilities, since at that stage, there's of course not much point to it. But no, we didn't say never nor always. Every now and then you should try baiting your enemies with a passive turret sound. And with an aggressive Killjoy, it's not something they should expect. And that's because it's not smart, but you know, mind games and stuff. Now before I continue on with the rest of these, I quickly want to mention our brand new course with hiiii that has officially been released. If you want to learn from the best, quite literally in this case, we highly recommend that you check out hiii's course on optimal Valorant training. It's available over on our website ProGuides.com, and for just $8 a month, you can get unlimited access to that, as well as our other pro courses, our boot camps, and there's even one-on-one coaching. Try it out if you're interested. Raze's grenades are some of the most straightforward and strongest bits of utility in the entire game. However, most people still aren't getting the maximum value out of them and have a tendency to just throw them in the direction of enemies whenever they see them. The paint shells are at their most effective when thrown at enemies who are trapped in an enclosed space. That's the reason Raze is so strong on tighter close-range maps like Split. You should be using Raze's grenades to punish enemies who put themselves into tough situations. Areas like Mailroom on B Heaven and the walkout from B Main after the attacking team has walled across are perfect for catching groups of enemies clustered together for some easy kills. Even if it doesn't finish off the opponents, you could find yourself dealing upwards of 300 damage with a single bit of free utility. So use it when it counts most, instead of yeeting it randomly at the start of the round. Neon's Relay Bolt ability, more commonly known as her stun, is a fantastic tool for stunning large areas and picking up free kills when following up. But there's where the problem lies. Most people don't follow up using Neon's stuns. Remember that when you're stunning an enemy, it doesn't really help in any way unless you're able to fight against them when they're stunned. It might stall them for a short while, but definitely not enough to the extent that you can use it in a place of a molly. So to get the most out of the Relay Bolt, you should only be using it when yourself or your teammate are ready to follow up and get the kills. Just throwing it at the enemies without the intention of finishing them off does the ability a huge disservice, and it can leave Neon without much else to enter a site if the push fails. So if you're using a stun, make sure you're running in. And the opposite holds true as well. If you aren't sure you want to commit to a site, save your stuns for when a real fight is coming. The second Gekko ability on the list is Wingman. Wingman is able to essentially have two abilities in one. He can both clear areas acting as kind of a drone and also run in to plant the spike. The problem we see is that there tends to be a lot of focus on the latter over the former. You don't want to be sending in Wingman to plant the bomb if you haven't cleared the site first, since it means that he'll only just be instantly killed and drop the spike in an open position. So even if you're the spike carrier as Gekko, it's probably more useful most of the time to use Wingman's drone as a stun ability rather than his plant ability. Once he clears the site, then it's easy to just get the bomb down yourself. Wingman could also stun an enemy quite easily, giving your team a sitting duck to follow up on site. All in all, Wingman's angle clearing ability is more useful than his bomb planting ability in a majority of cases. So don't be too quick to send him out to die with a spike until you're sure you're able to protect him. He is your little buddy after all. Most players are comfortable using Phoenix's flashes and molly effectively, but an often ignored yet valuable part of his kit is his blaze ability, also known as his wall. There's a habit among Phoenix mains to save the wall for when you need rapid healing and not really use it in other scenarios. However, the wall can be a very effective tool for taking space and breaking up sightlines. It's functionally similar to Neon's double wall, except it deals damage and is of course just one wall. In theory, it should be used in a similar way to get a fast entry onto a bomb site and temporarily cut off the defender's line of sight. By popping up a Phoenix wall when you walk into a site, you're not only giving yourself a corridor with which to enter, but also a convenient area to throw a flash through and pick off unsuspecting defenders. So start using the wall to take some free space rather than using it for emergencies only. You are much more likely to win rounds if you're taking over the map. Yoru's ultimate is a fantastic repositioning tool and the best reconnaissance ability in the game. You're able to run anywhere you want and throw out utility with total impunity. The trouble is that Yoru players like to use their ultimates just for themselves for a chance at a free kill or to outplay an individual instead of using it for their team. It's a very handy way to clear out entire sites and get information on defenders' positions. Not just that, but you can throw flashes at enemies or distract them with clones or fake TP so that your team can follow up more easily. So the advice we're going to give is to start treating Yoru's ultimate as a superpowered drone from time to time as well. You can continue to use it to surprise opponents with outplays as well, of course. We just recommend not doing it every round since even a good early round pick is not often useful as clearing out a whole site. As a bonus tip, the dimensional drift is especially useful when trying to drive Vipers out of their ultimates to finish them off. Just stand right next to the Viper and her ultimate and tell your team to spray your position and there you have it, a free Viper killing tool. Sky Seekers are one of the best information gathering ultimates in the game. However, the mistake that many players make is not knowing when to use it. It's a fairly situational ultimate that thrives in those mid-round situations where you don't know exactly where the other team is positioned and you need to make a decision on whether to rotate or not. By sending the Seekers out in say a 3v3 where you still have to push a site, you can find out where the bulk of the opponents are located and head the other way so that you can take a 3 versus 1 or potentially even an empty bomb site. It gives the ultimate far more round winning potential when used this way as opposed to using it at the start or end of the round. Sending all 3 through a tight corridor at the very start and having them all spam down in a matter of seconds might seem super appealing to some, but trust me when I say that there is indeed a better way. Think of it as a tool to help you make a decision on the best course of action in the mid-round, rather than a miracle cure for finishing off enemies, or opening up a spike site at a minute 40. That way you'll get much more value and you may even start to think it's a bit strong. Lastly, Sage's heal is great for getting teammates ready to take more fights when low on health. The heal regains up to 100 HP for allies and just 30 for Sage herself. Maybe you can see where we're going with this. Second grade math tells us that it's far more useful to heal allies than it is to heal yourself when you're playing as Sage. So if it comes down to a choice between a teammate and yourself when you're both on 1 HP, make sure to pick your teammate since they'll be able to tank more than a single extra bullet after a heal, whereas you'll still be pretty low. It can be pretty sucky to have to heal the 111 Reyna on your team, but you gotta do what's best for the team. And just like that, we're wrapping it up with our list of 10 abilities that you're using wrong. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to see a video on next, and as always,
you want Valorant skins. Just how awesome would it be to have your dream skin collection where you can stop worrying about getting dropped skins? The only problem
today we'll be showing you the tricks to bring your icebox to a new level, as well as the agents you'll need to pick to go with it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting with the side players tend to struggle with the most, there are a few steps to take to put up a strong defensive half. Varying your setups and trying to predict your opponents is important to defending on Icebox because it's a large map with lots of possibilities for the attackers. And that means realistically, no team of 5 can have a strong setup in all areas of the map. That means you need to coordinate which sites you want to hold and which bomb site you want to play more passively with the intention of retaking. Having a clear plan with your teammates on site as to whether or not you'd like to actively hold it or to play for the retake of the site. For example, typically B is easy to retake, so playing 3 players towards A with 2 passive players watching over mid and B is a common approach that works well. Making sure that you have support if you are holding site, because if you're fighting for your life, but your teammate is sitting in screens, you're going to have a very hard time taking on the attackers alone. Whilst it's also best to have an understanding between the players on opposite sides of the map, communication isn't always great in ranked, but you can make this style of play work to some degree without communication, just by positioning yourself based on how your team is set up. Particularly as a B player, you can opt for the more passive positions where you're likely to stay alive with the intention of being there to help in the retake of a site. Oh, and if you like these kinds of theoretical breakdowns of maps, we all of our other courses, our pro boot camps, and we'll even great approach, and their key abilities that will help you win rounds. First of all, Viper. Very strong as both a defender who can stall oncoming attackers, but also if they can stay alive long enough, the wall is an invaluable tool to provide cover in a retake. Setting up a simple wall like this one on A can easily be used for both purposes, for the initial defense and for the retake. In fact, even if you are playing the B site with Viper, you'll still be able to provide this wall for your teammates on A, and make it to your site in time to set up a useful orb. That, just like the wall, can be very effective in many situations. Sage is undeniably the best retake agent, but make sure you keep hold of your wall as often as possible. No more walling tube, it's not 2021. Sage's wall can be easily placed to block off default spike plants on both sites, giving your team cover to defuse and even sometimes blocking abilities such as snake bites, mollies, and nanoswarms raining in. Harbor is a close second, with Cole providing a good alternative to the wall. In combination with Sage, Gecko is also fantastic in these situations. If you can use Wingman to defuse, that means in every retake you suddenly have one extra player with their gun out, which can often give you the numbers advantage and change the round. Another important part to a retake approach to defense is awareness of your flank. Enemies sneaking up through mid as you start your retake can be very dangerous, sometimes winning rounds on their own. So how do you prevent these plays? Sentinels like Killjoy, Cypher, and Chamber can provide earlier info and even deter those lurkers altogether. If you opt not to pick one of these agents, then make sure somebody is watching your back. Now for the secret to winning Icebox attack, it's all about fakes. Simply put, this is making it look like you're about to push one site, while in fact lining up to take the other site as the opponents rotate. There's sometimes confusion as to exactly how to fake, so let's clear that up first. Fakes should never consist of all 5 members of the team going towards B and then sprinting all the way back to A together. The problem here is that you give up all that map control and information, and you risk running into a defender pushed up into a surprise position. You should always have at least one player holding map control elsewhere, either in mid or towards the site you intend to plant at. It's best generally to have 2 that allows those players to safely keep hold of the spike and watch over both mid and A pushes. Oh, and of course, the opposite is true too. If you were to fake A, you want somebody waiting outside B. Now let's get into the details on how to make those fake rounds successful. It actually starts right from round 1, your pistol round. If you push the B side in the first round and you at least get the spike planted, you've already started to condition your opponents. Think about the utility that you used in the first round, how it looked and sounded from the defender's perspective. If you can now replicate those abilities and footsteps with just 3 players, you're all set up for a very good fake round later in the game. Once you have run some good fakes, there is the added bonus that if you vary your round plans and actually make fast plays, the defenders could now be more cautious to rotate as they will be anticipating your fakes. They're then less likely to help their teammates out, giving you the advantage 5v2 on site. The best way to illustrate this is with an example. We're in round 1, Viper throws a poison orb in mid and a wall that cuts through B site just behind default. Sova sends a recon bolt above long, KO throws a knife that lands and covers yellow, Jet runs up and gives cover to Sage, who walls and plants the spike. You win the round and do the same again for your next anti-eco round next. Whether you win or lose round 2, you're now ready to run the fake. You use the exact same set of utility, Viper orb and wall, Sova's recon bolt, and KO's knife too. All 3 players run up B long, your opponents see all the abilities and hear all the steps, and quickly the whole team rotates to defend B in anticipation of another B site plant. This time you're one step ahead though. Jet and Sage wait outside A and start to slowly walk up to the undefended A site. The others quickly rotate through spawn using the poison orb for cover, and Sage plants the spike open for all of A main. At this point, you may as well be 3-0 up with a strong economy and facing an eco round next. Secure the anti-eco round and you're ready to set the trap again. This time you head straight to A. Remember the utility you used and you can replicate it for a new fake. It is important to understand that there are levels to faking, and the rank at which you play will determine how convincing you need to make your fake play. Where at ranks below Diamond, you might find that the opponents are very eager to rotate, and abilities alone can draw them out of position. Above Diamond, you'll likely need to get close enough for your footsteps to be heard from sight. At the top level, you need to go another step closer, such as getting a player across to yellow on B. This creates real pressure on the defenders, which will make them call for help and guarantee those rotations to happen. Icebox is an unusual map in the sense that map control isn't your typical goal in ranked. Controlling mid is not as valuable as it is on other maps, and so it's more often a target for your late lurk play. Silently waiting out rotations in this corner or under 2. One of your more passive agents such as Viper or Killjoy are best for the job. As you're not taking mid as a team, you're typically just switching between executing and faking. There is some flexibility in the agents you can choose for Icebox. It's just about finding a balance between a good attack and defense composition. As we mentioned earlier, agents like Viper, Sage, Killjoy, and Gecko work great on the defense side. Once again, Viper is your best controller option for attack, although a good Harbor player can do a similar job. The reason to choose one of these controllers is the fact that you can get multiple uses out of their walls, which ties in nicely with fake rounds, but also the fact that their walls simply provide more reliable cover at the B site than any combination of smokes ever could. Snakebites and the poison orb in mid tips things in favor for Viper. providing cover for rotations and a strong afterplan. The big plus to Harbor, however, is that the Cove can replace Sage's wall, providing safe cover for both planters and diffusers. Raze, Jet, and Reyna can all be useful on the map. However, none of them are essential. In fact, you'll often see pro teams playing without a duelist at all. It's best to have 2 initiators, especially if you decide to drop a duelist. KO and Sova have easy to use abilities that don't require complex lineups, that both support side takes and work great in a fake. Fade can work, but you need to know your haunt lineups to be a good replacement for Sova. Sky can replace KO, but you will lose the fake potential from the knife. Gecko is a great pick, but only in combination with one of Sage or Harbor. So how might an ideal Icebox composition look? Here are some for you to try. Viper, KO, Sova, Sage, Killjoy. This composition has a rock solid defense, great retakes, and loads of fake potential for the attack side. Harbor, KO, Sova, Gecko, and Reyna. This comp has easy spike plants and lots of firepower for site pushes, but it's also weaker on defense. And it works best with the retake approach. Send Reyna in to sell your fakes and keep valuable afterplant agents alive. Ever heard of the phrase fake it till you make it? Now you'll be faking your way to a great Icebox win rate. Made some great fake plays? Let us know in the comment section down below. For now, thanks so much for
I wanna be in your life.
Yeah, ay, si no sabes de dónde soy, no me ronques, no. Si no sabes de dónde soy, no me ronques. Si no sabes de dónde soy, no me ronques, no. Si no sabes de dónde soy, yo soy de P fucking R. Los maleantes con la R. Brr, 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 brr. Mejor que la boca cierre. Antes que los míos te entierren. Yo soy de P fucking R. Vale loco con la R. Brr, 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 brr. Mejor que la boca cierre. Antes que los míos te entierren. Cabrón, no te la creas, ey. Que estas perras hasta las baby maleantean, ey. Todos los días se josea, ey. En guirita flow parea, te la vamos a donkear. Yo no necesito prendas pa' brillar. Muchas pullis no se atreven a tirar, pero PR chiquito y siempre te van a pillar. Cabrón, estoy crecido, ey. Mi ser millonario, ahora tengo lo mío. Respetado en los barrios y en los caseríos. Todo el mundo me quiere. Tu envidia no me afecta, yo estoy bendecido. Pero si te pillan, mato el mío.
Yo soy de P fucking R, R. Donde yo crecí, la vida no vale nada. Eso mejor que no te aferre, la ferre. También tengo un partner que te metí, no le teme a que la policía lo encierre. Cierre, esto es Puerto Rico, lugar de respeto y se escribe con R. Ya son 15 años rompiendo culito con R. Que vivan los guerreros en el barrio obrero, donde hay callejones, cientos de craqueros. Llegaron los kilos desde el extranjero y ya se acabó el polvo pa' los periqueros. Adoro mi barrio con sus personajes, par de prostitutas, maleantes salvajes. Cambiamos los ondas, ahora son panameras. Vengo de una villa que tiene palmeras. Yo soy la máxima expresión en el callejón y mi lealtad, eso nunca se ha quebrantado. Mi voz pesa desde niño en este callejón. A ti solo te la damos por tu garganta. Tú hablas mucha mierda, pero tú no haces nada de lo que dices. Pregúntale a tu gante el favorito y te dirá que si lo dije fue porque lo hice.
Yo soy de P fucking R.
Los maleantes con la R.
Brr, 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 brr. Mejor que la boca cierre, ey. Antes que los míos te entierren.
Oye, yeah. La disco está abierta hasta que la R la cierren.
Baby, no te hagas, sé que te gusté, me miras y te busqué.
Pero dime qué más. Tú hablas mucho y no haces nada.
Baby, no te hagas, sé que te gusté.